All right, folks, welcome back to another Mancast. This is number 48. This is I don't know what to call it, Super Bowl withdrawal, football withdrawal, because while we're going to talk about the Super Bowl, what we have ahead of us is the abyss. No more football for quite a while, although we can start talking about the
Combine.
draft coming up soon. However, we're going to take a break from that. We'll eventually move into some politics for a bit, but for now, we're going to wrap up a little bit on the Super Bowl. Um, I want to say this before I pass it to Ed. You can doubt the Chiefs. You can dislike the Chiefs. You can disrespect the Chiefs. But you're going to have to deal with the Chiefs. Mitch Holtis. God bless you, brother. What say you, Edward?
Well, this is the outcome that I expected. I wouldn't have necessarily expected overtime, but Pat Mahomes does what Pat Mahomes does. You can't stop him. You know how I am. I do not believe there's any such thing as a GOAT. I think the whole thing, particularly in a sport that has 48 guys who play every week on the field at some point, it's a little ludicrous to say that this one person is the greatest at this very thing. But what Pat Mahomes has done in his first 6 years as a starter has never been done before. So it's remarkable. It's remarkable to watch. It's fun to watch. The excuses by fans who this is what happens when you're this good. The Patriots suffered from it. The Pittsburgh Steelers back in the 70s suffered from it. The Packers in the 60s, the Redskins in the 80s and 90s, and the Niners in the 80s and 90s, Dallas in the 90s. When you win that much that often, it doesn't take long for everybody who loves everything you're doing at first. Like, for instance, with Joe Gibbs, everybody was like, my God, how's he winning Super Bowls with all these different quarterbacks? And then after you win so many of them, you go, fuck that guy. I hate Joe Gibbs, and the Redskins suck, and the refs love them, and they're cheating for them because that's what they do. And so recently, the Patriots fans know better than most how that works. And now Kansas City's on top of the world. I remember literally just a couple of years ago, not like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, just a couple of years ago, maybe you can even say part of last year even, or most of last year, every person on earth understood that Pat Mahomes was the best quarterback. Now this year, all of a sudden, he's the most protected quarterback. His team has never been called for holding since 1927. It's so fucking ridiculous. There was one holding call called in that entire friggin' game. So if there's only one, that means there's a 50-50 shot that it was going to be called on one of those teams.
You can't sway it.
And San Francisco was the team that it got called on, and it was a pretty egregious hold, to be honest with you.
Just one.
But that's it. The entire game. They were both penalized 5 times equally, and Kansas City got penalized for more yards. I think it was like 55-40 or whatever the hell it was.
Mind you, you can go back and look at the film. There were egregious holds by both teams.
Because they let them play.
By both teams, yes.
They let them play. Now, here's the irony. It's like politics. When fans say, I just want them to be able to play, so either be good or be bad, but be consistent, which, by the way, in this game, they couldn't have been more consistent. Literally, what they did is the definition of consistent. So
Agreed.
You finally get it. But what you're really saying is, I want the calls only for my team. I want the bias to go to my team. I only get mad when I think the bias isn't with my team, which makes it so disingenuous that I just literally don't listen to the noise, and I dismiss anyone who even wants to talk about penalties. If I'm going to talk about any football game and the first thing you're going to talk about is penalties, we're not going to have a conversation because it's a pointless conversation.
Every time you've ever seen a penalty call that was like a really big deal, that was like really controversial, especially in a Super Bowl, you instantly knew it. And you instantly got texts or sent texts, and it was instantly an issue. You knew it right away. It's like, ooh, I don't know, this is gonna be an issue, right? That never happened. That never happened. They made it up after the fact,
Tony
bro.
Romo's a buffoon. If he would have had an opportunity to spoof all over a tragically horrible call, he would have done it.
I'm just saying there was never that case. You never felt like there was this late in the game, there was this call that turned everything around. Like it just never felt like
It
that.
was a clean game. And you know how clean it was? The post-game interviews. No San Francisco 49er brought it up. All they wanted to know was, how comes we didn't know the rules to the football game itself? Which is, wait a minute, what? You guys
Again,
didn't know the rules to overtime? What? What?
think about last year in the locker room. They were asking, do you think that was a holding call or not? Right? Right? Think about it. And he was like, yeah, I held him.
Yeah, totally did it.
But I'm just saying, there was no
But could
call
you
for that to
could
be.
you
There was
imagine?
no post game interview about a call because there was no controversial call.
But could you imagine at the end of that game? And they said, did you think you were holding him? And he said, what's holding? I don't even know about those rules holding. What are you talking about? That's the equivalent of what overtime rules? We don't know any, we don't know the overtime rules. What? What? Excuse me?
Okay.
You're a professional football team in a Super Bowl. By the
It's not
way,
quite equivalent, but I like what you're saying. It's hilarious.
the refs literally come into the locker room and explain those rules to you before the game fucking starts. And you guys still didn't know? Holy shit, man.
Yeah, that's your job, man. That's your fucking
Good
job.
God
And
almighty.
every team has a guy. Every team has a guy on staff that does that.
You know what else
Like
the refs go over, Chad?
his job is to make sure. But you know what? Kyle Shanahan, I saw him. I saw him on the headset. He called up. He heard it back and he said, "Okay, we're taking the ball." And he relayed it. And
I don't
so
even care.
somebody upstairs told him. And granted, but in the moment, there's a guy who does all the analytics. He's the one that in those moments. The Chiefs have a guy like that too, by the way, and he says never take the ball.
So because the rules have changed, even if San Francisco scored, and this is only in the Super Bowl or the playoffs in the Super Bowl. If San Francisco would have scored, the Chiefs still would have got the ball back. And if they would have scored, then they would have had to have kicked off. So, and then the next person who scores wins, no matter how they score. That's the playoff rule. In the regular season, if you take the ball first and you score a touchdown, you win. Game's over. But that doesn't happen in the Super Bowl.
No.
So, and by the way, a lot of people, one of the things nobody was mentioning is the overtime in the Super Bowl isn't 10 minutes like it is in the regular season. In the playoffs, it's 15 minutes.
Ongoing.
It's 15 minutes. It's 1:15. It does have a time limit. But if they're tied, they just go to another overtime for 15 minutes.
But they also don't kick off. It doesn't change possession. It doesn't go to a different side of the field. It's seamless. It's yeah, okay, they start a new 15 minutes, but nothing else changes. They don't flip-flop sides. They don't nothing like that.
Because
right?
it's kind of unusual. And there's never been a double overtime in the NFL, except for one time, and it was triple overtime, and it was the Miami Dolphins in the 1970s. They went to triple overtime to beat the Baltimore Colts.
Well, what's interesting though is like, again, like the clock would start over, but it wouldn't change anything else about the game. That's what's weird, but nonetheless.
But I like the new.
It seems
but these are to finish my thought. These are the rules. Now, everybody who wants to say they should have kicked or they should have done this, look. If you take the ball first and you play it like if you don't score, you lose, then it's the exact same effing thing. It doesn't matter. So just get out on the field and win the goddamn game. That's it. So while it does give some advantages to the other side, but only if you play in the moment a regular season style football. Why would you do that in the goddamn Super Bowl? Get the damn ball and put the pressure on. Even if you score, if you score a touchdown, you put way more pressure on the other team because they have to score again. They have no other choice. Even the extra point would matter at that point. So, yeah.
I disagree.
I'd take the ball.
Well, that's what San Francisco did, and it didn't work out for them because they had to kick a field goal.
They didn't have to kick a field goal, and that's what I'm saying that I wouldn't have done. I never would have kicked a field goal. It was 4th and 1, and you were at the 23-yard line. Go for it.
And the Chiefs defense was solid as fuck.
But they were still,
and then the next thing you know, they shut you down, and the next thing you know, a field goal beats you.
They were inside the 25, and by the way, San Francisco's defense ain't fucking no joke either. I don't have any problem with them taking the ball first. None. Go for it. They didn't have to kick a field goal. They could have gone for it. And by the way, and in the playoffs, it is a 79% chance that you'll make it on 4th down because that's what it's been in playoff history.
Okay.
Odds are.
It's two different philosophies.
Neither one of them are wrong.
The Chiefs showed up to defer. The 49ers showed up and to take the ball. The 49ers lost the game.
Yep.
Nice day.
Yeah, but here's the deal. When you make my problem is in San Francisco took the ball, and that's what I'm really trying to get at. My problem is they acted like they didn't know they could have done something else when they knew what the options were. So they were making excuses, and it makes me maybe some of the players didn't. Shanahan fucking knew. That's the only thing that matters. He's the guy who gets to make that call. So that's my problem. You were literally now trying to defer. Oh, and by the way, San Francisco has already fucking fired that
coordinator.
Yeah, that coordinator on offense because they're claiming he made the call. So they found their
scapegoat.
And it's bullshit. No matter what, it's bullshit because what we're saying is that Kyle Shanahan doesn't run the team. One of his assistants does. Eat shit. That's garbage. That's pussy fucking shit. And by the way, San Francisco fans, James, this does not include you. San Francisco fans,
we love you, bro.
From what I have watched over the last 2 weeks, they are as insufferable as Dallas Cowboy fans. Jesus Christ.
It's been bad. But I'm sure the Chiefs fans can be just as bad. So,
what?
I don't know what else to say.
Chiefs fans are the most horrible fans. Dallas is second. San Francisco is now third.
See how you are.
You want to know why the team formerly known as the Redskins aren't horrible fans? Because we barely have any. If we ever get good again, we'll see how that goes.
Fair enough.
But the game was not predicated upon that call, and the game was not predicated upon a holding call or a non-holding call.
No,
it's just
not at all.
Here is the difference, and we both talked about this at length in our podcast before the Super Bowl. The difference is Pat Mahomes. Now look, you could have put almost any other quarterback on Kansas City, and San Francisco probably would have won that game. They have overall the better roster, especially on offense.
Yes.
But you just don't have – Brock Purdy is a good NFL quarterback, but he's not elite. He's not at that level. And by the way, another thing I'd like to mention too is that Chris Jones – holy shit. You guys have to keep him.
I agree.
So ridiculously good, dude. While he had only a few tackles and he didn't actually get a sack, his disruption in that game was some of the only other guy I know that I've ever seen in today's current NFL that can do what he does is Aaron Darnold. And that's it. He's the only other guy. This guy, Chris Jones, played angry all day. He was pushing 2 and 3 guys at a time into the backfield. Those two, on that last drive for them, they had 2 opportunities at at throwing. Ayuk in particular on the one who your defender fell down. He was so wide open that the ball didn't even have to be close to him. If you could just get it off and not throw it out of the end zone, he was going to catch it. And Jones was
Right.
so in his goddamn face, he didn't even know he had that as an option.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, running over their fucking tackle, who was literally looking up at Jones's balls as he jumped over him to get into the face of Purdy.
Yeah, I don't think you get a three-peat. You cannot get a three-peat without Chris Jones.
No,
you have to have him back.
Nope. You're great on the wide receiver side of the end because of the guys at the end. Scanlon's going to be gone, you guys, because you're just not going to pay him that kind of money.
Too much.
Yeah. So he's gone, but it doesn't matter because of Raheem. He's better.
Rice.
Yeah.
Rice. Rashid
Rice. And he's on a rookie contract. So yeah, you're not going to let him go. Kadarius is going to go, but Jesus, they can pick almost anybody off the heap pile of free agent wide receivers, and they'll do better than Tony did.
Agreed.
I'm assuming Kelsey's going to play another couple of years yet, but he's not going to be there forever.
Yeah, he's at least back another.
Because he's what? He's 6 years or 6 years older than Pat. So
I think so.
I mean, just in terms of age, he can't play as long as Mahomes, but eventually
he's already slowing down.
Stop. But that now, because we're talking about him, now through the Super Bowl, he literally holds every receiving and touchdown and yardage record as a receiver in the playoffs in the Super Bowl in NFL history. And Jerry Rice is now number 2, which is strikingly remarkable thing that could happen. That he did it the way that he did it. So,
a big man. Yeah.
Yeah, he's playing from the tight end slot. Whether he plays as a tight end necessarily or not doesn't matter. He doesn't stretch the field like Jerry Rice does.
No, he's a big man who just finds little wrinkles and just can overpower you for a little bit of extra yardage.
One of the things he does too is his understanding, and I think with his
game is high level.
The thing that I love about him is because he seems to instinctively know what Pat Mahomes is going to do before Pat Mahomes even does it when things are breaking down. And what I noticed in the last, say, 3 games of the season in particular, and then through the playoffs in the Super Bowl, is Rice is dialed in with him like that now too.
Starting to figure it out. Yeah. Yep. He's been watching Kelsey.
They're only going to get better. So as far as that goes, so I'm not even going to. I'll say it out loud. If they 3-peat next year, I'm not even going to be surprised at all.
No surprise. No. Why would you be surprised? It's just
be the first team to 3-peat in history, and it would just be. But and then they'll have, 4 out of 6 and been in 5 out of 6. I mean, Pat Mahomes could probably call it a day at that point, and they just say, you know what, we're just going to put you in the Hall of Fame right now.
Here's how crazy it is. I think it's a coin flip. That's how close they are to a 3-peat. But that's how also close they are to not doing it.
Well, currently, according to Vegas, they're the odds-on favorite.
I know, but obviously, like that's not a slam dunk just being the favorite. But what I just want to say,
last year
they
had them rated at the beginning of the year at number 1, and they won it last year. And at the beginning of this year, they had them at number 1, and they won it. Now it's not a guarantee, obviously, but they seem to be. I don't want to just make it seem like, because I can't say on one hand that football requires so many players for everything to work. And it requires a great coaching staff, and it requires great management, and it requires great ownership. So when all those pieces come together and they work really well, that's odd. And the reason that it's odd, because people will go, well, what about the Patriots just did it? And then before them was Dallas and Redskins and blah, 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 Pittsburgh and Green Bay and San Francisco. Yep. And we just covered almost 60 fucking years, and we just named 6 teams, and that's fucking it. That's how rare it is, okay? So right now, in this era, the Brady era is over, and there's still a lot of clingers onto that whole era. It's done. It's over with. There is no better football organization because football, the reason the Patriots were as great as they were, organizationally from top to the bottom, they were the top in the NFL for almost that entire period. The reason that when the Redskins did their thing, it was because from top to bottom, they were one of the best organizations in the NFL. Same with the Rooneys and the Pittsburgh Steelers who had Chuck Noll, right? I mean, this is the way that it works. And right now, the Hunt family down through Beach and the whole management crew, all the way down to the coaching staff with Andy Reid, who's a first ballot Hall of Famer, unanimous, to the best quarterback in the NFL, and one of the best home bases that you could possibly have in the NFL. Literally everything is clicking together. It's not going to last forever. It'll be over faster than it's going to carry on. But when the whole thing is told, the damage that's going to be done could be 6, 7 Super Bowls in a 10-year period. It's ridiculous.
It's possible. So just a three-peat alone would be
What else?
Such a legendary and almost untouchable thing.
Well, nobody else has done it.
That you could just kind of relax after that.
I mean, now the team formerly known as the Redskins with the new management and everything that they've been doing, I'm expecting us to, starting in about 3 years, to peel off 15 in a row. It's gonna be quite remarkable.
Well, here.
Oh, by the way, tickets will be $1, parking will be free, and you don't have to pay for beer while you're there.
Yep, free stale peanuts.
Well, right now, Dan Snyder sold the team now. Damn it. But Dan might be out there shucking them. You never know. He could be out there just walking around with a peanut thing around him. So congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs. It was.
Thank you, sir.
It was. I'm not going to list it as. I mean, last year's game to me was 1,000 times more entertaining.
A lot more scoring.
And I thought, I never even saw the halftime thing. I skipped the whole thing, as I have a tendency to do. So I have nothing to say about that. I barely watched a commercial. I don't know shit about any of that stuff. I don't care. I'm here to watch a football game. A couple of other things that I find really just the general public whining about a 30-some-year-old woman having a beer while her boyfriend's winning a Super Bowl, regardless of who she is retarded. It's just dumb. Yeah. It's dumb. Now, however, Travis Kelce being drunk out of his fucking mind at the parade is a different thing altogether. He probably should have held himself together through that whole thing. This man's in his mid-30s. Oh, God damn it. Don't be getting so pie-eyed that you can't remember the words of the song you're singing. Not a good look. Sorry.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was cringy, very cringy. And then it was completely upstaged by some other shit we'll get to. But
it's almost like he was trying to upstage his brother's retarded antics in the AFC title game.
I guess so. Yeah, I'm sure it was like he thought in his mind it was going to be funny and it was going to be fodder, and then he just got too fucked up.
Yeah, he was wrong.
He crossed the line.
He did. So did a couple of.
But again, but you know how that goes. Like, man, you just before you know it, you had one too many, and it's like, shit, I still got to do this. Anyway, yeah, when you're getting paid millions of dollars to represent a team, you got to do better. So I'm here to say it, man. They can do better, dude. They shouldn't get so wasted.
No, so. I agree. Hold yourself together until there's no cameras around, especially in today's society. And it's not that hard to do. I mean, obviously they don't do that on the regular. They'd never be able to function as NFL football players. So
right.
Keep your shit together. That's all. Just get through the parade. You're going to be okay. Another thing that was a huge talking point to me that had, I mean, no gristle on it at all. It was a nothing burger to me, was the Kelce alleged Andy Reid interaction, if you watch that, you don't have to be a genius to see that Kelsey trips and falls into Andy Reid. Everybody's making it like he was going to punch him in the face or something. Andy Reid barely even reacted to it because it was such a nothing burger. So who cares?
Andy lost his balance. You can actually see Kelsey actually grab his arm and try to pull him back towards him.
The whole thing was silly.
Big Red already said, dude, the player that knows me most is Travis Kelsey. You can also rewind
Mostly
back
from their
to,
homosexual activity, but other than that,
you can actually rewind back to, gosh, I think it was like week 12, week 11 maybe, when Andy Reid checked Travis Kelsey, literally fucking shouldered him and bodied him. And Andy Reid is not a small man.
no, 6'5", well over
Yeah,
300 pounds.
threw his big old fucking whale booty right into Travis Kelsey and bucked him right off the sideline on camera and fucking sunned him. So they have a special relationship. Everybody else can just
Well, here's the
fucking
thing.
back the fuck
If
up.
they're getting to fist fights in the locker room, I don't give a shit. They just won back-to-back Super Bowls. They have 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, and they made three-peat. I literally don't care if they're fucking shitting in each other's soup. I don't care. As long as the team is operating to the level that it's supposed to, I don't care. And the only reason that the press or fans bring it up is because they're pissed off that they won again. That's it. That's the whole deal. Like
Jealousy.
nobody
So
nobody would have
jealous.
cared if they would have lost. So the
Nope.
way I do it is I make a list of complaints that you have. And then beside it, I draw a line. And then I go to those complaints and I put yes or no. And what it says in that column, it says, does anybody care if they lost? And in every one of those instances, the answer was no. So if you don't care about any of this stuff if they lost, then it doesn't have any impact on the game. Because I'm telling you right now, if I had a problem, let's say a DPI that was or was not called, if it was called, it never was DPI. And if it was egregious and it should have been called, and I put that as a list of complaints on the other side, I would have put, yeah, that still pisses me off because a score was either stopped or and it never happened because it wasn't called, or a score never should have happened when it was, right? So
Right.
that would still piss me off. All this other stuff is nonsense. None of it matters. There was no bearing on any game from any of these things they're chiming about. Who gives a
Agreed.
shit? The Kansas City Chiefs won that game because at the end of the game with seconds left, the ball was in the hands of the best football player in the NFL. Not quarterback, best player, period. Out of all fucking 1,250 of them, number one. And he did what he always does. And then you guys got the ball first. You could have scored a touchdown if you wanted to go for it. You could have pushed the pressure on, or potentially, not guaranteed, but you could have put the pressure on Pat. And you know what? It wouldn't have made any difference. You know what he was going to do with that ball? He was going to fucking score. Here's another thing. Even if they would have diverted, he was going to score a touchdown on that first fucking drive. Anyhow, it doesn't even make a difference. Then you would have lost by 6 instead of fucking 3. That's the only difference.
I'm so sorry, but it's so true. And everybody fucking knows it.
Of course.
Man.
That's why they're complaining about things that have nothing to do with nothing.
That guy's a murderer, dude.
You know, the only reason Kansas City won, Chad, is because I heard Andy Reid took a dump in his special toilet. What are we talking about here? Just stop it already. Right?
Patrick
You
Mahomes
lost
is
because
that
Patrick Mahomes is the best player
dude.
in the NFL.
He's that guy, bro. It's like he's a fucking he's a savage, dude. I don't understand him, but he's an alien, and he's that dude. He is that dude.
He is. And everybody knows it. So that means 31 other teams are jealous.
And they should be.
You know who's especially jealous? Dallas. Because Dallas has been trying to pretend for the last fucking 9 years that Dak Prescott is Patrick Mahomes. And this is what happens when that's a difference. Dak Prescott is one of the greatest regular season quarterbacks you're ever going to see in your life. He can't win in the playoffs. I've been saying this all along. When I hear people talk shit about um, a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL, especially Joe Flacco, all right, they're talking smack about this guy. That dude went to a Super Bowl and won an MVP.
Mhm.
You know what Dak Prescott, for instance, or Josh Allen or Joe Burrow has never done? Win a goddamn Super Bowl. So at the end of the day, you don't have to win Super Bowls to go to the NFL. That's never going to happen. If you're great at what you do, great. You're going to go either way. But if you go and you win multiple Super Bowls, you're probably getting in even if you don't deserve it. You know how I know that? Because fucking Bob Greasy's in the NFL Hall of Fame. That's how I know.
About it.
So winning
In
matters.
the Hall of
When they're
Fame.
looking at your
Yeah.
resume and you're a quarterback in particular, and you had the opportunity
Mhm.
to win championships and either you did or you didn't, that shit matters.
True story. As far as the Hall of Fame's concerned, for sure. Um, so we talked about the overtime rules. We got through all that. Do you think there were any of like the decisions otherwise that Shanahan made prior to that that were problematic?
Shanahan runs a really good offense and he's really smart. I think they had the lead. And again, they made the mistake of not utilizing Christian McCaffrey in a way that could have benefited the team and use check.
I agree. I agree.
Not that they weren't getting McCaffrey the ball, but use check, particularly in the first quarter where they took their first lead. They couldn't have done it without him. They were including him in the game plan. He disappeared in the second half of that football game. I mean, he
Mhm.
disappeared. You're up
He
10,
did.
and this guy, I know for real he's like 6'2", 245. But on that field, he looks 6'6", 295, right? He's
A
a
monster.
dude. If this guy could have got you hard yards and burned clock, that was the guy. And you can run
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey ran for more yards in the first half than the second. Why? Because he was running behind Juszczyk. And so
Yes.
why did you move? And you had a lead. So everything was working. I don't get when they do shit like that, man. Why are you changing what's happening? Why? It's almost like there are some coaches that get inside of their own ego-driven head that I'm going to win this because I'm going to outsmart. I'm going to beat Andy Reid and I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. Why would you take that risk?
I think they try to switch it up, you know, and then it bites them in the ass.
Right?
It's like, no, it was working for you. Just stick with it, you know?
Countering. Um, I thought because now we're talking. I thought they made some mistakes, misuse of players in the second half with the lead.
Mm.
But the counter to that was Kansas City making halftime adjustments that go almost in the entire second half, strictly man coverage, so they could fucking put more pressure because they could see it was disrupting Purdy. And that's what you're supposed to do at halftime. You're supposed to check down, figure out what you can do better, and then make it happen. And it's exactly what they
Right.
did. And I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, you don't switch the game plan just to confuse the other
No,
team. You make changes based on what
that's right. And
works
what you're seeing is working.
and what's
When
not
they were
working.
getting Ayuk, Samuel, and open and out in an open territory was when they were dumping down into, I forget what they call it today. It used to be called the Tampa 2, but you're playing a press coverage, but then you drop back into zone. They
Right.
noticed that when they were sticking with press coverage, that it was working better. They're looking at the film at halftime too. And they're going, you know what we're going to do? Fuck this. We're going to play press coverage. And instead of running a 3-4, we're going to go 4-3 press coverage. And now we got an extra man on the line, giving a lot of pressure. And that's what they did. And Purdy didn't play well under that pressure.
I also
Don't get me
don't think
wrong.
that.
Purdy didn't play bad. He didn't play
No,
win a Super Bowl good, right? These are different things.
I also think that Spags confused the shit out of him,
I think
and
the press
then
coverage
some
screwed
of
them
that.
up because they were expecting Spags to drop back into a Tampa on certain things, and they never
Mhm.
did. And they kept that pressure right on the line all the time. And we talked about
Yep.
that, Chad, where we thought the corners for the Chiefs matched up
All
really
those.
good.
Yes,
And they did.
absolutely, absolutely. All those spots were like good matches,
Yep.
man.
I was all about it.
Yeah.
I thought overall, I thought the point counterpart and what they did overall, you remove one player, Patrick Mahomes, and that was a chess match game. First half
Yep.
defense, second half was a little more offense.
Yep.
They both made their adjustments. Kansas City a little better, I thought, overall in the second half, mostly because it put Brock Purdy in a more uncomfortable position for basically this much of a tick more than a rookie quarterback against the most established, best player in the NFL. And that was a difference. And nothing against Kyle Shanahan, never should have put him in that spot. He had other ways to take
Yeah.
pressure off of him, and they never went back to it. And it worked in the first half. And that's frustrating to me.
That's fair. It's got to be tough for Shanahan too, man. That's 3 Super Bowls, dude. Three
If you think about
Super
it,
Bowls, three
take
losses.
the take the 80s and the 90s. San Francisco was a barn burner. They're 0-4
Mhm.
since then. As a San Francisco fan, that shit's gotta hurt, man. They're 0
That's
and
tough,
4.
dude. Hey, you know what though? A lot of fucking fan bases ain't been there in that long.
Hey,
Not even once.
the Dallas Cowboys won the Super Bowl the year after San Francisco won theirs, right? Cowboys haven't been back once. I am the team formerly known as a Redskins fan my whole life. And last year we were there was 1992. We have not been back. I would take 0-4 in the Super Bowl if we would have been to 4 Super Bowls in that since that time period.
Bro, I have pictures of me at 4 years old wearing Chiefs pajamas, growing up in, just south of Kansas City in Missouri. 40 years old before I ever saw us win a Super
And I
Bowl.
grew up with a team that was so badass that even when we had a down year, I was like, "Fuck you, we're the Redskins. We'll be in a Super Bowl next year, bitch." Now I
we went
spent
we went 20
I
years
spent the
without a
last 30
fucking
years with
playoff
none of
game.
that shit, bro. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I think I've watched a lot of sports and I get a lot of things in sports, but there is no fans that are more rabid for their team than football fans, and that includes college football. They're the craziest fans of all. Now, I'm not going to equate that to like soccer or anything that I'm not involved with overseas because I know it's so much more global and I've seen some crazy shit with fans over there. But here, football's just shit. And it has been since the early 1900s.
Hell yeah.
Period. If you take
Hell yeah.
baseball's ratings, not attendance because they play so many more games, but baseball's ratings, basketball's ratings, hockey's ratings, you add them all up, they don't come to football ratings. And that's on a passing 1:00 football game in the afternoon.
Amen.
So football's a shit. I love it. It's my favorite sport. And I love it. I love college football too. Probably is as equal. I just know that college football brings something different. But we're on college football, and I got to get this out before I forget it. CJ Stroud was on a podcast with a couple of other young players who've just been in the league for a couple of years. And
This man is a
and one of the
dog,
guys
dude.
at the podcast, who I guess he didn't,
I think I
who
know
I
what you're
guess he
talking
didn't
about.
know, mentioned something about how good their football program was. And then when he said he went to Florida, CJ Stroud said, "Man, dude, Florida, are you kidding me? I thought you were going to say Alabama or something."
He said, "It ain't like you went to Alabama,
Like
dude.
you went to
Relax."
Alabama.
He said, "Relax with Florida."
I was on the floor, dude. And he's so deadpanned it, like he never raised his voice or nothing, man. Oh, I am so on a
the moxie on this
I'm
kid.
gonna so
The
love watching
moxie.
this kid play football over the next 15 years. Holy shit.
15 years, bro.
Barring injury, so we'll
Yes.
keep our fingers crossed for
Woo!
that. But yeah, he's
Well, and I was gonna say that about fucking Mahomes, dude. Bro, at some point, it's gonna happen. You know, I knock on fucking
yeah, but not
wood
for
and
another
everything
10
else.
years. Right.
But no, but
He's 20.
every one of them gets injured. Brady,
Yeah, got his knee blown out.
couple different seasons, almost full seasons out. So
Mahomes played last year's Super Bowl with one eye. He was deaf. His ankle was
at the end of the season, he limped his way across the line.
still
But
did it.
I'm telling you, like at some point, it's going to be a thing where you get fucked up at the early on in the season,
But I do
and the
think though
Chiefs
that Pat
are the
Mahomes.
Chiefs suck again.
But I love Josh Allen. You know how much I like watching that kid play football. There's a bunch of
Yeah,
others. I'm not going to go through all of them in the NFL, but there's
sure,
something transitional, something so different about Pat Mahomes. Nothing against Tom Brady. I always have to preface this. First ballot Hall of Famer, currently the GOAT, if you like to use that term, just based on Super Bowl wins.
of
But
course.
there is no time in Tom Brady's career that I would have taken him over Pat Mahomes. Not at
You've
all,
never
ever,
seen.
ever, never.
We've never
No,
seen this.
it's so transitional. The NFL. Do you know why C.J. Stroud came into the NFL with that gusto, with that moxie, the way that he plays? Because one of his heroes was watching Pat Mahomes play in college when he was in junior high and high school. Period. End of sentence. That's
Yeah,
how that happens.
amen.
When Tiger Woods was changing
It,
how golf was being played, then Tiger had some injuries and it took him a couple years to come back. By the time he came back, there were 20 guys on the tour that could drive
yeah,
further than him, that could play just as
yeah,
good as he could. And all of a sudden,
yeah.
that grouping of all this great stuff that he did disappeared. And everybody, this all happened by the time he was less than 35. He already was only 3 majors away from breaking Nicklaus's major record. He's still 2 behind, right? Because the field called up to him. Pat Mahomes is transitional. He's transitioning the NFL into a different kind of athletic quarterback play. And CJ Stroud, I believe, is the first of his minions. And it's just going to keep going after that.
Right on. Interesting. Well, I can't debate that, man. Sounds legit to me.
And I'm hoping that either Caleb Williams or Drake May is one of those fucking guys and they go to the fucking team formerly known as the Redskins. And I'm going to call them that forever, by the way, for all our fans. The same way that Prince said the artist formerly known as Prince, well, the football team formerly known as the Redskins. That's who I root for. So, and by the way, the Panthers or the Jags, because I moved just 20 minutes north of Jacksonville a handful of years back. So I follow them because, well, I can get free tickets to every game. So it's kind of cool.
Let me ask you this: what happens to the offensive coordinator, formerly known as Eric Bieniemy?
I think he's going to go back to so this is what I know for sure because on all the Redskins forums it's been reported, but after it was decided in the last week that the Redskins wouldn't make the playoffs because that was was a close one at 3 3 wins and 27,000 losses. So, but before you guys went to the AFC Championship game, he went in and saw Andy Reid and talked to ownership. And so it was widely reported. And I'm sure it was in Kansas City too. So I don't know what they have going on there. Are they going to bring him in as a special consultant? Or are they going to bring him in as the OC again? I think, especially wide receiver wise, the lack of his kind of discipline, you could kind of see it. Whether they're going to do anything or not, I don't know. But he definitely was there the week of practice before the AFC Championship game.
I would be very surprised if they brought him back in. I think it would be disruptive.
So you,
I think that
so
to
you're saying you got addition by subtraction.
the the older players who were like, this fucking guy, man, holy shit. Like, yeah, okay, we got a little something out of it, but fucking A, man, we're kind of over this guy. And then he left, and then we won the Super Bowl anyway, and now he's back fucking being a hammer again. I just don't see that. You can't
Good point.
you can't put the fucking thing back in the bag, man. It's out. It's
Yeah,
already out.
Pandora's box is open.
Yeah,
No,
man.
no,
I just I
you
don't
make you
see.
make a valid point. And I also think because it was at the end of the season, maybe a lot of people weren't paying attention. But outside of Scanlon, who did great in the playoffs in the Super Bowl, but not worth a contract for what he produced last year, so he's gone.
Right.
Tony's gone because, well, he's the new Brown, right?
Yeah.
So get out.
Fuck him.
Yeah, he's a whiffdo. Um, and they'll find somebody appropriate to bring in. There's quite a few people coming up that'll be on the block that are past their prime, but can still do damage. And it's great. To me, it's kind of like when a point guard just slides over to guard, right? Like shooting guard and point guard do different things. So if you want the guy running your team from the point through the whole thing, and he's getting a little older, but he's still got value because he's a good shooter and he knows how to play inside the offense, slide him over, right? And that's what you do with a great wide receiver. We know that you can't go down and burn these guys anymore. We're slide you over to the slot.
Bring him your slot.
Bring them on, because Rice is going to be your big wideout for years here. So, you guys are going to be fine next year. And by the way, for any San Francisco fans who are still crying into their soup, you guys are going to be fine next year too. By the way, is Detroit and Philadelphia are who you got to worry about, because Minnesota better get Kirk Cousins back. They're not going to get a quarterback out of this draft. Kirk Cousins, I think, is underrated as an NFL quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
He's earned his money there. He's the free agent king of the world, by the way, because this dude has manipulated being the guy on the hot seat all the way back when he was with the Redskins, right? Like, this guy gets bank. He deserves it. You know why? Because Kirk Cousins, whether you like him or you don't like him, is one of the most efficient, highest percentage winning quarterbacks in regular season history. Period.
The guy wins, man. He just
It's
wins.
the same damn reason that Dallas is not getting rid of Dak. Because Dak routinely goes
exactly.
12-5. Why would you get rid of that guy? You got to figure out how to get him to the next level. That's all. Kirk.
I honestly don't think Kirk or Dak are going to get to the next level.
Neither do I.
I don't think they have that other gear.
I don't think Baker is either, but I think the Buccaneers are crazy if they don't re-sign Baker Mayfield.
If anybody has that other gear, it's Baker. We just haven't seen it. I don't know if it can manifest. He has the fire. He has the fire in him.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But I don't know if he can manifest.
He's a tough guy.
And we haven't seen it, and it seems to me we would have seen it already, and we kind of have a little bit.
This was his best year. And I'm not going to blame Baker on a lot of the stuff that happened in Cleveland, because Cleveland's just such a train wreck all the time.
Man, that's a disaster.
A true veteran Super Bowl winning championship quarterback came there and saved their season. That's what happened to Cleveland this past year.
Again, hail fucking Flacco,
yes,
dude.
Absolutely. So, because time is coming short, I know that Chad wanted to talk about something specific that is related to the Super Bowl, but has nothing to do with it at exactly the same time. And because this is his city and his family, and they're all from that area, and it's bothering him, I'm going to give you the platform. If you want any information from me, let me know. But otherwise, you are far more involved in this than I am, so I'll give you the floor, bro.
We were gonna do this show last week, and we were gonna do it on Tuesday on the day of the Super Bowl parade. And, a couple hours later, Ed's like, hey, are we going to do the show later? And I'm like, man, I don't think I can do it because it's all fucked up. It hits too close to home. I had people at that parade, man. And that's where I'm from. I mean, I'm from there, dude. And like, my people live there. And such a cool thing. They let the schools out. The whole Kansas City school district was out. Suburb schools were out so that families could take their kids to the parade. There was 1 million people there. Half of those million were children. And 800 cops. There's fucking, there's National Guard, there's security, there's all this shit. And in the midst is some thugs. And they're trying to tell you it's just a couple of juveniles, but it was a lot more than that. It was a network. It was a gang. It was gang activity, large gang presence, large gang activity. It had a large shootout, and they've been downplaying it ever since it happened. It's a travesty that they're trying to, keep it from the public what really happened. You have a bunch of people in league, political league, racial league, I don't know what the fuck, whatever it is, but the mayor, um, the prosecutor, and the chief of police are all of the same ilk, the same political bent, and they're all looking out for each other. And they've let gangs run rampant in the city of Kansas City, same as has happened all over the country. Kansas City is a microcosm of what's happening all over the country. We're watching our country fucking devolve right before our very eyes. I don't recognize it anymore. Can't go to a fucking Super Bowl parade without gangbangers having a shootout. And what happens is we cover it up. There's a cover up going on currently because we don't want to talk about the race of the perpetrators. If it were a white person, we would go nuts. We'd go ham. Look at this white racist piece of shit. But 12%, 13%, I'm sorry, 13% of the population commits 60% of the homicide. Blacks, I'm talking about, black people. Black people in the United States make up a little bit less than 13% and commit over 60% of the homicides. It was all black people shooting each other in this parade. Now,
Even more frightening, not to interrupt you, but at 13%, about 3 or 4% of that 13% are the ones committing those crimes.
oh yeah, yeah. Now, before you call me a racist, I understand that there's plenty of violent white people, a fuckload of white,
For the record, we'd
guys
be
that
condemning
out
the hell out of
and
this, and you would be doing the same thing regardless of color. It's a fact. What we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen, is the media cover up simply based on skin color, which is the most racist goddamn thing you could ever do. I'm sorry I had to jump in. Floor is yours. Sorry, brother.
if there was a sect of white guys doing this, I would go after them. There's a sect of black guys doing this. You should go after people. Come on, man. The gangs are the problem. We all know it. We're not making it any better with what's going on at the southern border, but we're gonna get into politics eventually here. But let me just wrap it up with this: the fact that we can't talk about it, that's the problem. The fact that we have to shy away from it. The fact that if you're hearing what I'm saying right now, you're cringing. That's the problem. I can't tell you that 3%. Really, it is. Ed's right. It is black males 15 to 35. They make up about 3 to 4% of the population of the whole entire United States, and they're responsible for 60% of the homicides. If you can't talk about that, that's a fucking problem. If you're going to call me racist for talking about that, that's a fucking problem. Guess what? I studied criminology for 10 fucking years. I'm an ABD fucking doctor of criminology. That fucking close because I didn't finish the fucking dissertation, but I had all the training. Kiss my ass. There's a problem. And it's a small group. Now, if you want to talk about all those other groups, let's do that. Please. Let's talk about all this. Let's talk about the other 40% because that's a big fucking chunk. I'm happy to do that. But if you're going to ignore the 60%, we can't have a conversation. Talk to me about the 60, I'll talk to you about the 40. If you only want to talk about the 40, what are we doing? Right?
Another thing that I'd like to put out there for anybody who wants to deem any of the things that have been said here by either Chad or myself as racist, keep this in mind. 9 innocent children were shot when this went on. Children. Children. Could have been your children. So before you start pointing fingers, what we're trying to say is, regardless of your race, we have a huge problem in this country. Until we start to identify what that problem is and deal with it, it can't be fixed.
The constant rebuttal, Ed, okay? The constant rebuttal is, oh, all of your school shooters, all of your mass shooters are white. Well, guess what? There was a time where that seemed to be the case. It really wasn't because that's just what the media showed. But in 2023, just last year, overwhelmingly, mass shooters were black. It it's now become black females in 2023 outstriped white males in shootings. People don't understand what's happening. This shit's spiraling out of control. I've never seen anything like it. I've looked at crime trends for a century. I've never seen anything behave the way that this is behaving. We're in danger. Red alert, motherfuckers. I'm just saying, red fucking alert. You better pack. It's going to get out of hand. With what's going on at the border and the fact that we apparently can't talk about who's committing the crime because of the color of their skin, man, we're fucked, dude. So I don't know. We'll see if we can three-peat next year, Chiefs, if we have a city.
All right. So we got to wrap this up. And by the way, for anybody, we're going to be talking about this a lot because now football season is over and we'll be segueing back to politics, which is what we do in the off season. So you can expect a lot more of this incendiary kind of conversation. And we hope that you'll join us. I will say this, 9 children got shot in that, and that's a tragedy. But it shouldn't take away on the other side of the great win that they had. And I think that everybody needs to take a step back and start to put the responsibility where it belongs. And outside of that, I would say that I'm very happy for the Kansas City Chiefs, for the city, for their fans. And I find it, to say it out loud, and I said this about Tom Brady too, especially when he was with Tampa. When you're watching something that you'll never see ever again happen, enjoy it. Currently, that player's name is Pat Mahomes, and I'll leave it at that.
All right. And with that, peace out.